Hey guys, Barrett here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're talking about this thing, the Invikta by Selkirk. Stay tuned. All right, so as I'm explaining this paddle, I'm gonna show some background footage of me playing and drilling it with it the other night. It was a lot of fun, had an absolute blast. Now, the best way for me to explain the Selkirk Invikta is basically a power-oriented version of an elongated paddle. Now, it's not entirely elongated. The maximum length of any given pickleball paddle is 17 inches. That's the max allowed by the USAPA. The Invikta, similar to the Omni actually, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, is 16.5 inches. So it's not the longest paddle, but you still get the width. Now, if you're familiar with sort of traditionally shaped pickleball paddles, most traditional paddles like these two right here, the Tempest Wave and the 30PXL, are 8 inches wide. That's pretty standard. What's cool about the Invikta is that it's actually 7 1/3 wide. So when you compare it to a traditional paddle, you're only losing about 2/3 of an inch worth of width. That means that you're losing 1/3 on each side. That's pretty cool. What you gain, of course, is the height advantage. So you gain 3/4 of an inch in terms of height. So yeah, you do lose a little bit of that width, which is very common with elongated paddles, but you get that reach as well. It's pretty cool. Now, I mentioned something about the Omni. Let me grab it real quick. If you're familiar with the Omni, it's one of these looking things. You've probably seen paddles like this before. It's very traditional in terms of an elongated paddle, but what's different is that it has the really short handle. This is the main gripe that I hear when it comes to elongated paddles, is that the handle is really tiny. I mean, look at my hand. I'm not a very big guy. My hands aren't very big, but I'm pretty much gripping the entire thing. The Omni is great for people who do this sort of thing, right? But a lot of people just don't like that. What's cool about the Invikta is that they're pretty much the same height. And in fact, on the Selkirk website, it's listed, both these paddles are listed at 16.5 inches high. What's cool is that you get a longer handle with the Invikta. Look at how long that is, okay? So what this means is that you can actually hold the paddle a little bit further up the handle like this. This makes it easier to swing because you don't have as much weight to carry when your handle's at the bottom because you're closer to the center of gravity when you hold it up here. This means that it's easier to swing. Think about like a hammer, you know, something like that. So what this means is that you still get the reach of the paddle when it comes to the height, but you can also really whip this thing. And that's what the Selkirk Invikta is. It's a whippy paddle. You use a lot of wrist action when you're playing with it. It's really cool idea. And that's why I say that it's pretty much a power-oriented version of an elongated paddle. That's where that comes from. All right, so let me just compare it with a few other paddles over at my desk here. All right, so here is the Selkirk Invikta. Again, an elongated paddle with a longer than usual handle. Now, it does come in two versions. You've got the midweight version and the lightweight version, which is traditional for the amped line from Selkirk. The midweight version comes in, I think it's like 7.9 to 8.3 ounces, and the lightweight is 7.3 to 7.7 ounces. The ones I got here, this one was 7.7 and the other one was 8.0. Now, if you're not familiar with the amped line from Selkirk, they're using their X5 core. Now, X5 is just a fancy name for the polymer core that they're using. Polymer is just plastic. It's the most popular type of core that's being used these days. It basically gives you a good combination of power and control. Very standard. The difference, though, is that the amped paddles are extremely thick. You see how thick that is? Let me compare it to another paddle real quick. This is another paddle that I use quite often, the PaddleTech Tempest Wave. You see how much thicker this is from that one? That's the X5 core. This is just a regular polymer core. Now, Nothing wrong with a Tempest Wave, but we're not talking about that one today. The cool thing about the X5 core is that it gives you a lot more softness, a lot more feel than other types of paddles, again, because of that thickness. But it's still a relatively standard polymer core. The thing is, though, is that with the Selkirk Invikta, sometimes when you play outdoors, like with the Durafast 40, it can still feel kind of hard. Now that's going to be pretty common with a more like a skinnier paddle, but for other types of balls, like indoor balls, it feels incredible. It's really, really amazing. The face is fiberglass, and fiberglass paddles are known for having just a little bit more spin than other types of paddle faces, like composite faces or graphite or whatever. Now, here's what I really want to show you. Here's the Amped Epic. And let me just lay the Invikta right on top of the Epic. The Epic is 8 inches wide, and it's pretty standard. Now, look at that. You notice how you can hardly see the edges of the Epic? That's because, like I said earlier, the Epic is only 1/3 inches longer on each side of the paddle. So you're really not losing that much width. When it comes to the Omni, again, they're the exact same size, but you gain so much more in terms of the length of the handle, which gives you more power and more whip. When you compare it to the Maxima is pretty interesting. This is what I call a blade paddle, but you definitely get more reach and more height with the Maxima, but you don't get the width on either side. So that is the Selkirk Invikta. All right, so now that I've shown you what the paddle is all about, I want to go into what kind of players should use this paddle. First and foremost, it's probably not the best for beginners or even intermediate players because you still do sacrifice a little bit of that width for the height, and thus you do lose a little bit of that sweet spot and a little bit of the accuracy. Keep in mind, the skinnier the paddle, the more accuracy you have to have. So probably not the best for beginners, but for intermediate or advanced players, especially if you have previous experience with tennis or even racquetball, this could be a really great option for you. If you're the kind of player that has a real balanced game, so for example, you love doing cross-court dinks at the net and you're perfectly comfortable with that, but also you like to bring out the third shot drive every now and then, this could be a really great option for you. Especially for the players who love passing shots. Now, if you've ever been the victim of a passing shot, it can be pretty demoralizing. It's because they're very effective, and with a paddle like this, you can really whip the ball, which gives you that power, but also that top spin to make those passing shots even more brutal than they already are. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful. Of course, I've written a full article review about this paddle. You can go to pickleballkitchen.com/Invikta, and you can check it out for yourself. I do have some links in the description below to Amazon. They are affiliate links, just again for full disclosure. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.